Assalamu alaikum. You are listening to the Professional Muslim Women Podcast, a place for working Muslim women to share their stories, struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way in pursuit of their careers. Being a Muslim woman who wants to advance her career without compromising her faith or values can be challenging. We know these systems were never designed for us, but that doesn't mean we can't be strategic in thriving in them as we advance our careers. In this season of the podcast, we'll continue to bring you inspirational, trailblazing, successful, and fulfilled professional Muslim women to you. We'll be introducing a mentoring segment where we answer your burning career and life goals questions. We'll also be featuring the Taking Up Space course, the foundational career strategy course of our sponsor, the Defiance Academy. Tune in to the Professional Muslim Women Podcast with me, your host, Dr. Qali Hussain, trauma surgeon, wife, mom of 6, CEO, and keynote speaker for deep dives on all things career and life goals. Keep an ear out for the occasional surprise visits from our sister and friend of the show, Dr. Hani Ahmed, hospitalist, mom, and physician leader. On this podcast, we keep it brutally honest and tackle the taboo so you can be better prepared. Get ready to be inspired and learn how you can be strategic in forging your own path as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Khali, I hope you guys have been having a good week. This week, I'm going to talk about leadership. What exactly is leadership? What do I think leadership means? Why do I think it's important in talking about being a professional Muslim woman and navigating these environments that we do? And why is it also important in our personal lives? So to me, the best definition of leadership is the ability to move people from where they currently are to where you want them to be. So whether it's how they think or how they behave or how they treat you, or if it's a company that has certain policies that aren't very welcoming to everybody, or you're in a school system where they don't provide the resources that you need. How do you move people from where they currently are to where you want them to be? And I think it's a very important skill that we are not taught. I think it's a huge gap in our education from high school to college to our specific specialties. And the pattern that I've seen is that leadership skills are usually incorporated into career development and professional development at the very end, at the late stages of your career. But if we're able to learn this very early, especially as Muslim women, especially as underrepresented women in a lot of these STEM fields, I think it would serve us so well to bring about the changes that we need to be able to advocate for ourselves, to be able to negotiate the changes that we need. And so that's why, as part of the Defiance Academy, one of the biggest things that we teach is leadership. Because in order for you to make these changes that you need, you have to be the leader. We've spoken a lot on this podcast with many of our guests regarding the changes that need to be made. And we've discussed it over and over how the changes that need to happen usually come from those who are directly impacted. But not having the skills to properly navigate these spaces usually puts the students and the trainees and those that are navigating these systems for the first time, very frequently, without the skills that they need, it puts them at risk. And we're seeing this over and over in medicine. And so that's why, the foundational course that we talk about in the Defiance Academy is the Taking Up Space course, which a huge part of it is leadership skills, right? Leadership skills such as, speaking up and, which issues do you take on? Evaluating the risks versus benefits of you even speaking up and knowing that if there is retaliation, if you are going to be put at risk, how do you, get the appropriate people on your side? How do you navigate those tricky places? Because when you go to other people who have not gone through this, right? You go to counselors, or most people will tell you go to HR, and you do, what happens, right? They give you advice that actually puts you at higher risk. The number of times I've seen medical students and residents be given terrible advice, whether it's, during their schooling or even on social media, people who are supposed to be, who are meant to help, the number of times they're told to go to HR to report, which actually puts a target on their back, is really, really sad. And so navigating these spaces in order to do it in a way that protects you requires leadership skills. And not only that, I think it's also important in advocating for changes for your own personal life, right? So if there are cultural restrictions in, allowing you to do what it is that you need. So I have a lot of young women who reach out to me talking about a lot of, familial issues, about restrictions placed on them because they're a woman of a certain culture. And oftentimes, sadly, the dean, our religion, is used as a reason to hold them back. So how do you advocate for yourself and use, leadership skills to move the conversation where the religion is being used against you as a reason to limit you in your educational aspirations or your career aspirations or even your familial aspirations, your personal goals? How do you move that needle and have a conversation that in the end gets you what it is that you want without causing, any strife within your families? It's really, really sad that there are young women that I've connected with over the years that say, because of those kinds of limitations, they've either given up on their own personal goals and settled for what it is, that their family wanted, or they pursued their own personal goals and cut ties with their families. And that is just really, really heartbreaking. I think, if we are open to having the difficult conversations, if we're open to leading that conversation and just getting to the bottom of what is at the heart of these fears that we have when it comes to Muslim women entering these fields from a familial and cultural standpoint, from a community standpoint, leadership skills become very, very important. The ability to negotiate, for yourself becomes very, very important. I often talk about the conversations I was having with my parents when I was going to medical school and I was moving out of my parents' home before I got married to go to medical school. And it was either, you go to medical school by living at home and driving 3 hours each way every day, or you don't go to medical school. And that was a fight that I had to have. That was, a really difficult discussion that I had to have with my parents to say, this is very important to me. I worked really, really hard to get there. And besides, our deen, our religion prioritizes knowledge, right? The first words of the Quran that were revealed is Iqra, read. So education is very, very valuable. And the fear that they had was, well, we're not going to be there. We're not going to be there to protect you. And my response to that is, who better than Allah to protect me, right? That's as soon as I step out of the house, I'm under the protection of Allah. I'm under the protection of Allah when I'm in your home, right? So we are actually often have a lot of these fears that are more cultural than religious. And it is up to us to have those open and honest conversations to really dig deep and figure out, where that fear is coming from, what we can do to alleviate that fear and have that open and honest conversation with our families, because that is what's going to move the needle. I remember having this conversation with a young woman and she said, I can't talk my parents like that. And I sent her, there was a video of a speech that I gave that talked about the same thing. It was within the Somali community. And I told it in a funny way. So it was a little bit easier to deliver. And she watched it with her mom and she called me and she said, mashallah, said, did my mom watch this? And she said, what message are you trying to send me? You're trying to tell me something? And it was funny, but we need to have these conversations. And being a leader, having those conversations comes with that. So I teach leadership skills and we focus a lot on leadership skills within the Defiance Academy because it's extremely important for us to get comfortable with having those tough discussions, with having strategy, with starting the conversation, because I'll tell you, it is not going to be started by anybody else. Nobody else is going to start this conversation and nobody else is going to push it forward if it doesn't impact them. Okay. And this is why I strongly, strongly believe in building these skills early on. I don't think it's ever too early to start learning these skills. But sadly, the way our education system is set up and the way our career development is set up, you don't get this until you're way out on your career path and you've gone through the most vulnerable time in your career and in your development. So, this is a good time for me to introduce the fact that to properly introduce the Defiant Women's Leadership Conference. So, as part of Defiance Academy, this is a conference that we are putting together, bringing together trailblazing women that will share their stories and their struggles and how they've been able to accomplish what they've been able to accomplish and really, provide a space where we can support each other. We have mentorship and sponsorship and collaboration and really, see what it is that when we base our efforts on reality and we know exactly what we're walking into, but we have strategy, we have ways of dealing with the obstacles that we're going to face, that anything is possible. That absolutely anything is possible, that you don't have to be limited by what society says you can do. You don't have to be limited by, what these STEM fields tell us that, we're capable of or not. A seat at the table is enough. We're not considered leaders. We're not considered the thought leaders in any of these fields. So I want to be able to create a space where we don't dream in a limited way, that the sky is the limit. And in order to do that, you have to have strategy, because in order for that to happen, we have to have strategy. I think, it's easy to say, if I can do it, anybody can do it, or if so and so can do it, anybody can do it. But because that's not reality. The reality is there are a lot of hidden curriculum. There are a lot of hidden things that you don't see until you go into these fields. And unless you have someone to show you, hey, these are going to be the stumbling blocks and this is how you deal with it, then it becomes very difficult. Like my path was stumbling block. I stumbled all the way to, where I am today, not having any guidance and having to figure that out. I think it's extremely important that in order for us to change the landscape, in order for us to change, how diverse these fields are and how welcoming these fields are and how far we can go in them, I think it's extremely important that we have strategy and that we make your path easier. So, in that token, the Defiant Women's Leadership Academy is what we're working on, inshallah. The conference is slated for January 28, 2023 in Scottsdale, Arizona. I will be posting the link for registration as soon as possible. We have very limited spots and very limited hotel rooms. So if you guys are interested, I will be posting the link for registration as soon as possible. In the meantime, I'm going to leave a link for you to get on the wait list. So as soon as registration is available, you'll be the first one to get an email. And so this is the first of many. I'm hoping to create a conference where you're able to come and be yourself and you can get the mentoring and the sponsorship that you need, and you're able to dream as unlimited as possible. But knowing that there is strategy, knowing that, I know exactly what I'm going to face and I know how I'm going to deal with it, because now I have a game plan. Now I have a strategy. So that is my goal. That is the big dream that I have for Defiance Academy, because I believe we have to be defiant, right? In order for us to change anything, we have to be defiant. We have to push back against the narrative that society tells us that we have to fit into, right? The predefined box of what a Muslim woman can and cannot accomplish, how far a Muslim woman can and cannot go. We have to be defiant against those stereotypes. And so in order for us to do that, we have to have strategy. And so that is what we're creating and that is what we're working on, because it is up to us to be the change that we want to see in the world. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Click on the link below to get on the list. Reserve your spot for the Defiant Women's Leadership Conference. I cannot wait to see you guys in Scottsdale, Arizona in January. I am so, so, so excited. We already have a lot of people on the list. So I can't wait to see you guys, inshallah. Feel free to send me questions on Instagram. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And I will see you guys next week. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for tuning in to the Professional Muslim Women Podcast, the place for Muslim women to inspire and be inspired. Please join us on our Facebook group, Professional Muslim Women Podcast, to continue the conversation and connect with Muslim women like you. Thank you to our sponsor, Defiance Academy, and the Taking Up Space course. Be sure to check out the course at the link below. If you have any burning career and life goals questions, or you'd like to suggest topics for us to cover, submit them to the Mentoring Moments segment at the link below. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and drop us a like and a review. We'd love to hear from you. As always, may Allah guide us all on this journey. Stay blessed. Wa alaikum salam.